And good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I'm Chad Holmes, joined by former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress. Well, it's good. You have 2 weeks of stuff to talk about tonight, right?
Well, I always got a lot to say, but I'm back. I feel uncomfortable. I'm lost. There's new signage. It's like you remodeled the place without me.
We got a bunch of we got a total of about 9 microphones in the studio right now, but it's a good reason because coming up at 7:00, our student athlete guest this week will be student athlete guest. Coming up on Friday, the annual Win Brockmeyer Award ceremony, where the top Wausau area senior football player, the award is given out, and each of the 4 Wausau area high schools, Wausau West, Wausau East, DC Everest, and Newman Catholic, they each nominate a senior football player for the Win Brockmeyer Award. And we'll find out who the winner is on Friday. And tonight, we will have all 4 of the nominees joining us. We're going to try to squeeze them around the table here at 7:00. From DC Everest, Pearson McDonald. From Newman Catholic, Matthew Meyer. From Wausau East, Pacey Weber. And from Wausau West, Tegan Isham Hur. So the 4 Brockmeyer nominees will join us at 7:00. Also then after that, at approximately 7:20, our coach guest for this week. Again, we're pushing the coach guest into the second hour from the 7-0 Central Wisconsin Storm, their head coach, Jana Wimmer. So both our guest lineup will be in the second hour, so that gives us plenty of time to talk about what's been going on, starting with high school boys basketball. And Wisconsin Valley Conference played their first league games on Friday of last week. And looking at the standings, and we'll talk about what's happened, you got DC Everest, Marshfield, and Wausau West all 1-0 in the conference. Evergreens are 3-3 overall. Marshfield 4-0. Wausau West 6-2. Stevens Point is yet to play a conference game, but they're perfect overall at 5-0. Then you have Merrill, Wausau East, and Wisconsin Rapids all 0-1 in the conference. Blue Jays are 3-2 overall. Lumberjacks are 6-1, and Wisconsin Rapids is 2-5. So starting off, let's talk about DC Everest to begin with, because they got off to a bit of a slow start, losing 3 of their first 4 games, but they had a very good week, and they started their conference campaign winning at Wausau East against the previously undefeated Lumberjacks, 75-57 last Friday. Casey Studeman, 23 points, 11 rebounds. Cohen Preby had 16 points. Colin Ebersold, 14 for Everest. Jesse Napgezik had 20. Caden Worth, 11 for East. And then Everest last night, they rolled. They kept the momentum going. They defeated Medford 83-47. Preby, 28 points, including 7 of 11 on threes. Cade Felch had 16 points. Ebersold, 15 for DCE. So, again, we knew there's going to be maybe a little bit of a transition for the Evergreens, but boy, that's a couple of nice wins. First to get the conference campaign underway with a big W, and then to back it up with a nice win against Medford last night. Yeah, and there's so many different ways to kind of look at how you jump into your season.
Everest, they had some early preseason tournaments. They played a couple teams that were, challenging, but yet at the same time you didn't know what they were on paper yet, because they hadn't, or that you only kind of saw what they were on paper, and they hadn't transitioned into the new season with the guys that are playing for them and putting up some statistics and controlling the basketball. So, East is a very good basketball team, so to get a nice first early conference win against them, that I think is a big deal. And then, Medford's always an old standby where you're going to get physically fought with how they play and what they're able to do, and to see how they roll into their next conference games, which will be this Friday, is going to be interesting to see if that path continues. But right now, I'd feel very good about how they're playing if I was coaching that group.
Mentioned East, they had that first loss. They did get a non-conference win on Monday, beating Colby 101-61. 5 Lumberjacks in double figures in that game. Napgezik again led the way with 21 points. Jack Barthel, 17 for East. Obviously, there's been a lot of positives for Wausau East so far this season. You want to get that first conference win, though, against a crosstown rival. But, again, it's a long season, and early in the campaign, you sometimes need a hole in the road to learn a valuable lesson that you can take to the court later in the campaign.
Well, sometimes, it just puts it in perspective of how hard you got to keep fighting. I mean, they've had a lot of W's, which is great success early on, and they're doing things well. And I think they have a really balanced group on that team between the juniors and senior classes. And I think, they're going to be in the thick of things in the conference and fighting with all these teams, but you learn a little bit of what maybe happened in the Everest game that you weren't ready for, you didn't execute well on, and you bring that into the next game when they roll right back into conference against Merrill.
Wausau West is red hot right now. They've won 4 games in a row. In fact, their last 5 games have been on the road. They lost a tough one at Eau Claire North a week ago Saturday, but then 4 consecutive games away from the Fieldhouse that they won. On Friday last week, they opened up conference play, defeating Merrill 61-50. Bennett Madsen 16, Griffin Lang 13, Brett Butala and Lucas Hager 11 for Wausau West. Merrill had 4 players in double figures. E.J. Wykes and Sam Ryman 13, Carter Bade and Jacob Schmelzer 10. Wausau West then went to Kaukauna, played a non-conference game on Saturday, and defeated Little Chute 49-36, Madsen 12, Butala 10. And then as well, Wausau West last night went to Green Bay East and won 78-50. Madsen again, 15 points, Lucas Hager 14. But for Wausau West, it's been really a good start. I know the coach was disappointed with the loss at Eau Claire North, a game that they could have won. But other than that, they've been playing some really solid basketball.
Well, and just looking at a couple of the scores, now that they've gone 2 halves, I think if you can keep teams in the 40s, 50s, and defensively, you're doing your job, and you see that popping up in most of their scores, where those teams are they either hit 50 or it's less than that. Early on in the season, you get a little win streak going, build some confidence, see what your team is executing well on, and continue that rolling. That's a big deal with what you want to see as a coach, that the stuff that the players are doing and executing and are paying off. And to be sitting 1-0 in the conference, 6-2 overall, I think Coach Lemons has to be pleased with that.
We'll talk later because they do have a massive conference game against Stevens Point coming up on Friday that should really say a lot on whether or not Wausau West all of a sudden can be talked about in terms of the top of the conference as well. Mentioned Merrill. They had that loss against West on Friday, but they bounced back and got off to a slow start last night against Lakeland. Merrill was down 28-17 at halftime, but came back and defeated the Lakeland T-Birds in double overtime, 83-73. Carter Body, 28 points. Jacob Smeltzer, 19 for Merrill. So, again, you lose that conference opener, then all of a sudden a bit of a slow start against Lakeland. And I know that they were able to dig and earn a really hard-fought win.
Well, and that's in the double overtime victory, that's a big deal to come back and fight from that. But being down at halftime by double digits and to pop up, I think it allows you to really evaluate your team early on in terms of seeing kind of what they're made of. Your backs are up against the wall, and you got to bounce back from the conference loss, and like you said, you don't want to see things spiraling a certain way. So when your team's able to fight through maybe not the prettiest game and make it a win, you chalk that up as something real positive at the end of the night to build on your next game, jumping back into the conference.
There are 2 teams in the WVC have not lost at all. Marshfield 4-0. 1-0 in the conference, and Stevens Point 5-0 overall, still waiting to play their first conference game. They had the conference bye last Friday. Marshfield defeated Rapids in the conference opener, 62-35. Chris Pohl, 17 points for Marshfield. Sean Reynes, 10 for Rapids. They then played again on Saturday, winning a non-conference game against La Crosse Central, 56-45. Brooks Hinton, 22. Landon Lee, 16 for Marshfield. And Stevens Point, they played on Saturday as well. Another win for the Panthers, 69-34 over Appleton West. Carter Combs, 19. Noah Marshke, 13 for Stevens Point. But we talk about what East has done so far this season. You talk about West now winning 4 games in a row. You talk about Everest with a nice week. Marshfield and Stevens Point are still there. And I think right now, both teams are the teams maybe to beat at this point.
Yeah, I mean it's still early, but they're got the unblemished losing, no losses in the loss column yet.
And they got talent. I mean, this is not we heard about some of these players that I just mentioned that it's not unexpected, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, well, and as a lot of the Valley teams do, they jump outside their conference and try to get ready for that conference schedule. I mean, Marshfield, that's a nice win over La Crosse Central, who's typically been tough. I know Spash has challenged himself in the non-conference. I think Kimberly's coming up at some point here, right after they play a conference game the night before. So these teams are as their early favorites based on lineups and what they've kind of done in the conference where they've been at the top of the pack. They're going to be expected to be up there again, but a lot of nice starts, and I think that makes it for an interesting view for us with how all these teams are doing and to peg who's going to be coming out of it. It's going to be battle tested, and you got to have consistency.
Great Northern Conference. Lakeland, Rhinelander, both 2-0. Mosinee 1-0 in the conference. Lakeland 3-2 overall. Rhinelander 4-1. Mosinee 5-1. Northern Pines 1-1 in the conference. 3-5 overall. Tomahawk 0-1. 1-3. And then Antigo and Medford both 0-2 in the conference. Red Robins 2-4 overall. Medford 0-5. Let's talk a little bit about Mosinee. They had an interesting weekend. On Friday, they rolled past Medford, 85-49. Massive night for Landon Tomer, 19 points, 19 rebounds. Cole Kowalski, 18. Keegan Jershely, 14. And then they went right back at it. I was over in Kaukauna Saturday watching Wausau West. Later in the day, in fact, in the evening, Mosinee was there taking on the host school, Kaukauna, in that event. And Kaukauna jumped out to a big lead. Mosinee tried to come back, but fell short in a very high-scoring affair. 101-94. Keegan Jershely, 34. Treef Stoffel, 17. And then last night, nice win. You beat a Wisconsin Valley Conference team on the road by 39 points. Mosinee defeated Wisconsin Rapids 94-65. Jershely 26 more. Stoffel 19. So again, 2-1 on the week for Mosinee. But boy, they are showing some offensive firepower right now, putting up big numbers, getting in the 90s last two games.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of baskets with that tendency. I mean, and that's the output you want. Sometimes if defense ain't quite holding the way you want, you can put the ball up in the basket quite a bit. That makes a big difference. I think for Mosinee, the surprise team in there is you just know how good Medford's been over the years. And they're struggling kind of at the bottom of that conference right now to win a conference game. They're 0-5. But they're very well coached and they have a very good program. So for Mosinee to get that early win decisively against them, I think that's a big deal. To storm back when you're on the road in somebody else's gym against a good Kaukauna program that's over on that side of the state. And we know that the Valley has good basketball and coming out and owning those out of when you're in a different conference, I think says a lot. So right now, probably want to crispen some things up in terms of keeping these teams down in point wise, but otherwise, I think their offensive output can control basketball games. And
it'll be interesting to see when they do play Lakeland and Rhinelander. Lakeland got a nice win against Antigo, 53-35 on Friday. Lakeland Thunderbirds and the Rhinelander Hodags. Rhinelander, nice start with a 4-1 record, beating Pines 59-47 in conference, and then a good win against Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. Those are the kind of games that I think that in terms of you look ahead, because sometimes they can be very similar in sizes. I'm not sure if this year they're still in the same bracket, but that's a nice win for Rhinelander. Their only loss came to Wausau East. They're going to have a chance against Wausau West, another Valley team coming up next week. But Rhinelander struggled a bit last season. It looks like they're back to where we kind of expect them, fighting near the top of that conference.
Yeah, they're always one of the better teams. Whether they're a sleeper sometimes or they're out there with a solid group controlling their destiny in the conference, they've always been a good program under Coach Lemons. And I think I watched them against East, and East obviously handled that game and controlled them and had their number during that night. But so I think I'd be happy to sit at 4-1, and you got some other games you get to reprove yourself again against West coming up, and they should beat Tomahawk on Friday. So I think they're going to be sitting at 5-1 before they roll into the next game against the Valley team.
Merrittwood South has Marathon and Edgar and Auburndale all undefeated in the league. They're 3-0. Marathon 5-0 overall. Edgar 3-0. Auburndale 4-1. Stratford and Assumption 2-1 in the conference. Stratford 4-1 overall. Assumption 3-2. Newman Catholic 0-3 in the conference. 1-5 overall. Marathon doing what Marathon's been doing. They beat Rib Lake last Thursday, 76-57. Grant Warren had 24 points and 18 rebounds. And then last night in a game that was live right here on Bull Falls Radio, Marathon pulled away late to defeat Stratford 60-40. And Drew Wolfel led the way with 21 points. Tyler Underwood 13, Grant Warren 11. Henry Zaleski 11, Brady Schmidt 10 for Stratford. But right now, Marathon looking solid, to say the least.
Well, I think you'd like the fact that there's some scoring being spread out because, everybody with Warren's numbers from the past years and what they've seen him do on the court, people are kind of probably headhunting to keep him in check. And when the other guys can continue to step up and it continues to be, as Coach Jacobson's preached many times, that team atmosphere, that's a big deal. And that's why you're going to see him pull out, not waver when the score gets a little tighter. It's a little ugly to start off the ball game. And they're just steady. Undefeated in conference, undefeated overall, and controlling games and doing what Marathon does is want to stay up at the top of that conference.
Edgar and Auburndale both 3-0 in the conference. I mean, that's I think Auburndale is expected usually to be right there. Edgar being 3-0 in the conference, 3-0 overall. They defeated Prentice in the crossover last Friday, 67-47, and then beat Assumption last night, 55-49, and Auburndale beating Phillips 56-39 last Friday. Caden Anderson 25, Caden Weinferter 18 in that game, and then they beat Newman last night on the road 71-27. Caden Anderson 20, Caden Weinferter 19. Those Cadens are doing the job, but when I think Auburndale is always there. Edgar right now, pretty good start for them.
Well, and I think you have to be happy. They have new coaches, where Coach Huss has been there for a long time, and it's co-head coaches, so a little bit different organization probably. But, at the end of the day, I actually ran into one of them, and he talked about kind of tweaking this to make it an environment where the kids are going out and it's something they really want to do, and it's not a job. It's a fun atmosphere. It's part of something they want to be around, and it seems to be working with the W's that they're getting. And Auburndale, it does what Auburndale does. I watched them play just a little bit last night, and it's just, it's steady, and they wait for you to make the mistake. The minute they make the mistake, they take advantage of it, and that's kind of been their recipe for success. Is they're going to break you down and get you in a spot where it's tough to defend them, and they're going to play gritty defense, and they're going to wait for the moments where everybody gets in a successful scoring spot for what their abilities are, and Coach Weinferter just continues to push on with that 3-0 mark, and really their only loss, I think, came to Marshfield Columbus, which is a respectable loss.
When you look at, again, 5 of the 6 teams are over 500 in the South. All the teams are under 500 in the North because of the crossovers early. There have been multiple crossovers already. You got Prentice, Rib Lake, Abbotsford, and Athens all 1-2. Shawamigan and Phillips 0-2. The wins in terms of these teams. Abbotsford erased a 15-point deficit on Friday, rallying past Newman Catholic 54-51. That's one, again, for the Cards, that was a tough one because you have that double-digit lead, and right now you're trying to build a little confidence with a new group. Also last night, Rib Lake beat Athens 69-49. Andy Shire 27 for Athens, but these teams, I think they're happy that we don't have one of those Friday crossovers. We had a couple Friday crossovers the last 2 weeks. This week it's just generally conference games, but it's nothing unusual. These teams, in the end, it probably helps them in a sense, but it's still not fun to be in such a disadvantage for some of these crossovers.
Right. Well, and you can see it in how the conference records play out when you're going to have a conference champion there, but right now there's no winning records because you've taken your lumps to the South a little bit. It's what it is. In different years, certain teams, show up, and even think I watched Athens play earlier this year, and they have a very good group. Those kids played hard, shot the ball well, scrappy on defense, and Rib Lake beat them by 20. So it's just a matter of in your interconference play, it's just a great rivalries, and teams so well, and some of those coaches have been there a while. So it's really that game of chess that develops is always interesting to see which offensive and defensive strategies teams are going to throw at each other for the season.
CWC North, Marion 3-0, 7-0 overall. Then you got White Lake, Tigerton, both 1-1. Tigerton 4-1 overall. Boulder, Gresham, and Northland Lutheran all 0-1 in the conference. Northland 1-5. They played in a Lutheran tournament over the weekend. They edged Illinois Lutheran 58-57 on Friday. fell to Great Plains Lutheran of South Dakota, 72-36 on Saturday. And then last night played a non-conference game against Rochelle, fell 46-43. So 1-5 so far for Northland, a bit of a rough start. And they've had a couple of close games, and they have not been able to win those. And that's, when you have 6 games, you win a couple of close ones, you're 3-3 instead of 1-5. So they're, I think, trying to find ways to win early on.
Well, yeah, it's tough sometimes to get over that hump, especially, if they're doing a little, they graduated a couple guys they relied on. Other guys have come back. We've talked about it on the show before where they've combined with Wisconsin Valley Lutheran. And sometimes getting over that hump to get that consistency in your play and win those close ones can take a little more time than you want. Obviously, it's been a sporadic schedule too. A couple conference games. I'd have to double check the location. I can't remember if it's Minneapolis or if they go all the way to the Dakotas.
No, it was, I think, at Wisconsin Lutheran.
Oh, it was. Does it rotate?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know they've gone over different years.
Right. This year was in state.
Okay, never mind. Then that's good to be in state on that one. But my point, you're looking for that consistency, and sometimes when you're putting players back together that haven't logged a lot of hours with each other because of the circumstances, it might take a little time within that conference to find your foothold.
And finally, CWC East Bonduel 2-0, Wyawega Fremont 1-0. Those are the only teams that have not lost, and they've hardly played any games. Bonduel 3-1 overall, 2-3 for Wyawega. Whitburn 1-1, Amherst 1-1, Iola 1-1, Manawa 1-1. Whitburn 2-3. Mentioned they lost to Rhinelander in a non-conference game early this week. Shiocton 0-1 in the conference, Menominee Indian 0-2, and it does not look like any dominant forces. I mean, again, these teams have not played a lot of games, but everybody's lost, overall at the very least. So it's competitive. Sometimes you got to look at conferences. Sometimes they're just very competitive, even though there's not really would be a standout early, at least.
Right, and until you hit the big games that come up. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Wittenberg, they lost to Bonduel by about 66-40, correct?
Yep.
So there's one where you got Bonduel kind of playing out at the top a little bit, but otherwise in the heat of that pack with teams splitting games in the loss and win column like that, you're looking for that moment or that decisive edge that'll get you to that second or third spot if you can't catch a guy at the top versus another loss or two here if you don't come to play or you didn't do something right one night and you're sitting more in the bottom pack. So it's a difficult road when that conference is ultra competitive right in the middle of the pack.
That's a look at what's been going on the boys' side. We'll look ahead at some big conference matchups coming up on the weekend and into early next week later in the program. Coming up again later in the show. The second hour is where we have our guest. At 7 o'clock, we'll have the 4 nominees for the Win Brockmeyer Award as the top senior football player in the Wausau area. Pearson McDonald from D.C. Everest, Matthew Meyer from Newman Catholic, Pacey Weber from Wausau East, and Tegan Isham-Herr from Wausau West. They'll be joining us at 7 o'clock. And then at 7:20-ish, we'll be joined by the head coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm, Jano Wimmer. And the Storm 7-0 to start off the season as well. Coming up a little bit later this hour, we'll talk about what's been going on the ice with high school hockey because Jeff missed it last week. But coming up next, we'll talk about what's been going on with girls high school basketball. We're starting to get a sense of some of these conferences, and we'll talk about that straight ahead as we continue on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
Fall sports are here. Align your young athletes and yourself with health by scheduling an appointment with Dr. Sarah at Shine Chiropractic in Rim Mountain. Stay in the game with our comprehensive 3-point neurological exam, safe for the entire family. Don't let the daily grind keep you and your student athletes on the sidelines this year. Call Dr. Sarah at 715-298-5104. That's 715-298-5104 in Rim Mountain today.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And on the Civic Media app, we talked boys basketball in the last segment. Let's talk some girls basketball. Start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. You got the Marshfield Tigers at 2-0. They're 5-1 overall. Then Stevens Point and Wausau West are both 1-0 in the conference. Spash 3-4 overall. West 2-3. Then Wausau East and Wisconsin Rapids 1-1. Lumberjacks 4-4 so far this season. Rapids 2-4 overall. And then DC Everest and Merrill 0-2 in the conference. Everest 1-6 overall. Merrill 3-3. Looking at some of the action last week Thursday, Stevens Point has been scuffling a little bit. Had a nice win in non-conference, 50-33 against New London. Jada Seibert 22, Adelie Ness 16. And then on Friday of last week, a full night of conference activity. Spash played Thursday because they had the conference bye, but then Wausau West defeated Merrill 71-60. Huge night for Ayla Christensen. Boy, 32 points. Really well beyond anything that she's provided so far. Really big night. Kelly Cray, 15 points, 15 rebounds. Paige Anderson and Harper Mead, 12 points each for the Warriors. Maya Ott had 20. Sophie Wendorf, 16 for the Merrill Blue Jays. For Wausau West, again, we're still, I think, seeing the development. New head coach. We see that Cray is going to be solid. I think she's going to be somebody that'll be a tough matchup for anybody during the season. But we see Ayla Christensen come up with that kind of night. And in fact, I did the boys game last week in Merrill, so I'm driving back and I'm tuned into the very end of the girls game, which was on the Merrill radio station. And then Coach DeBoer came on in the post game and said basically that was a Wausau West team that he had not seen on tape. That this was the best game by far that Wausau West had played. And for Coach DeBoer and the Blue Jays, it's been a couple of tough road games. They start off with these road games back to back in the conference. First Marshfield and then Wausau West. So despite the 0-2 record, I don't think there's going to be any panic with Merrill.
Right. Yeah, sometimes that conference plays when you start with some of the top dogs or teams that have been typically strong. It puts in perspective of what you got to work on and where you want to stand and be at as the games progress. And you know that there's different teams in the conference that you'll face. I think you're right when you say, or I know you're right when you say that you still get a feeling. Some of these programs are starting over with a new coach, a different regime, and maybe they switch the systems up a little bit. So to get their feet wet, get a couple wins for West to be 1-0 in the conference, get a nice win against a good Merrill Blue Jays team. That's a solid victory. And I think that next game that when you see Spash and West will tell you a little bit about where those teams stand. Because I think Spash is still unanswered because they play a little bit more challenging non-conference schedule. They got the win in the conference already, but in turnaround beat New London, but then they had some wins or losses that we thought maybe they could have beat that team. So I think that'll be a big one for those two teams. And I think Merrill, like you said, Coach DeBoer, he knows his plan. He knows where he wants to go with that. So he's going to have his girls lined up and ready to go and for when they step out against an East team that talking to him, that East is definitely playing better.
Yeah,
but he expects to get those W's against them.
Speaking of East, they got a big W against Everest Friday, 64-30. It was 24-23 at halftime, and then 40-7. East in the second half.
Run.
That is a run.
A numerical.
And as I said, East with 4 wins already. I mean, that's you've seen many years where East does not get 4 wins for the entire season. They've had many years where they don't get any conference wins. And as we talked to the coach a couple of weeks back, I think that was not unexpected. That right now, this is where they think this team is. They gave Stevens Point a pretty good run in the first conference game. Was like 87-74. I mean, they put up 74 points against Stevens Point. So it's obviously a much improved Wausau East squad.
Well, one of the things their coach, talked about when she was here was just the green light to shoot, to find these shots, to not be scared of stuff, to be confident in their abilities, and preaching that philosophy, I think, can go a long way with the kids. They respond to that when they have that stress taken off their shoulders, where there's not a judgment on a lot of the shots, and they're holding true and strong in what their systems are and what they feel will work, and to have the expectations that they don't want to just win a game here and there. They want to finish at 500 or get above 500 or beat some teams that they haven't beat in the past. And you see that pattern, and they have that offensive output right now is really, I think, going a long way for the W's that they're getting.
Also, Marshfield looking sharp. I think this Marshfield team is going to be a tough one in the conference. They defeated Rapids 81-34, I should say, on Friday. Raylia Schuler had 23. Ayana Busam had 19 for Marshfield. Marshfield looking very solid. They had a good season a year ago. The only problem they had was the 2 games against Stevens Point. Yep. That really hurt them, but I think Coach Varsho has a pretty good squad this year.
Right. I mean, well, and just for the girls' Valley overall records, they're the only team with a winning record right now. If I've got my records right, at 5-1.
Yep.
So, and a very dominant performance against Wisconsin Rapids. They do what Marshfield does. Just you go take ownership at the top of that conference, and win the games you have to win, and keep getting better as the season progresses. Just looking at their schedule upcoming, they could be 8-9-1 before, I don't know how many they're going to get in for Christmas, but they may only have one loss before they roll into the Christmas break with the games that they have left. So I think a dominating performance, and I think they're always going to have the target on their back, but they're going to be able to defend themselves pretty well with that.
And I think generally the conference still has work to do. I think, again, we've talked about this right now. They're behind when it comes to the teams, especially in the Fox Valley. Yeah. And I think right now, again, we're seeing early on that there's some work to do for some of these squads. It's plain and simple.
Right, and that's the most difficult part, where even when we have Norbert Durst, you can't get the definite answer of what it is. Is facilities things? Is it just these kids are specializing in one sport? But there's a difference in how the game is played when you go to different parts of the states. And for the Valley, it's the idea of getting out of that area to take down some of those Fox Valley teams. Great
Northern Conference, Lakeland and Rhinelander both off to great starts. Lakeland and Rhinelander 3-0 in the conference. Lakeland 7-1. 5-2 for the Hodags. Mosinee off to a good start. They're 1-1. They're only lost in conference to Lakeland, 5-2 overall. Pines 1-1, 3-3. Then Antigo at 1-2, 2-5 in the conference. Tomahawk and Medford looking for those first conference wins. Tomahawk 0-2, Medford 0-3. And for Mosinee, they got a 62-34 win over Medford last Friday night. Taylon Jershely, a lot of Jershely points for the Mosinee squads, both on the boys and the girls side. She had 31 points. Speaking of Lakeland, they beat Antigo 79-36 Friday. Christina Ouimet, 33 points, 10 rebounds, and then Ouimet added 31 more points last night in a 60-19 non-conference loss against non-conference win. Well, she scored 31 points. The losing team had 19.
Right.
But you're right, exactly. 60-19, Lakeland over Everest last night. But I think Mosinee is still the biggest threat. Even though, I guess the word threat is not
what
a good
to
word.
define a threat. Yeah,
right.
I get you. But the biggest foe that could be a stumbling block if somebody's out with this injury, sickness, if the team doesn't show up to play that night, Mosinee would try to sneak in there. Obviously, Lakeland's a heavy favorite. 7 wins already, undefeated mark in conference. I think it's going to be tough to touch them with the height and the scoring punch that they have, and you just see the domination in the scores. They're playing defense, and they're scoring a lot of points, and that's a great recipe for success when you got your team doing it on both ends. But, for Mosinee, a decisive win against Medford. They'll stay in the conference, and then they'll jump over to Merriwood. And their girls, when I've seen the highlights or read the stats on Wiz Sports, they've got some people putting up numbers, and that could carry you forth and always keep your offensive potency going, and you mix that with some defense. So, Coach McKillips is doing a good job with them at 1-1 mark with one of those, with that loss being to Lake or to is it Lake? Yeah, Lakeland, right? And then 5-2 overall. They're sitting in a successful spot too.
And Wilmette is going to be putting up some pretty big numbers this year. It seems like every game she's in the 30-plus. I mean, she's been consistently at those levels so far, and she's got the capability of, I think, probably taking away some of the records her sister set.
Well, and as a player, you set out to the numbers on the board at the end of the day is whether you've won or lost. But when you can say as a high school athlete, too, in a sentence that you put up 30 points in a game just one time is a pretty big deal for players, and she's done it multiple times, which there's a lot of points going, a lot of work that goes into being that type of scorer.
Merriwood South right now, you got Assumption 4-0, 7-0 overall. Stratford is 3-1 in the conference, 4-2. Edgar 3-2, 5-2. Auburndale 2-0, 4-0. Is that correct? Am I right on that? That's
Auburndale 2-0, and what was it?
4-0.
4-0 for
Auburndale?
Yes, that's
okay.
what I have down.
Yeah, it seems odd looking at it. Newman Catholic and Marathon both 1-4 in the conference, 1-6 overall. And the crossovers actually went Merriwood Conference North's way on Friday of last week. They had 3 wins. Rib Lake defeated Marathon 42-38. Abbotsford topped Newman 45-30. Athens beat Stratford, handing Stratford their first conference loss 48-40. The 2 games that were won by Merriwood South in the crossovers Friday. Edgar beat Prentice 41-33. Assumption over Shawamigan by a score of 83-17. Stratford did bounce back with a non-conference win against Spencer, 62-47 on Monday. And Auburndale and Assumption were winners in non-conference action last night. Auburndale 71, Adams Friendship 62, and Assumption 80, Loyal 30. But looks as though maybe a little bit more of a even matchup between the South and the North on the girls' side.
Yeah, and again, seen some game. Watch the Athens girls play. They have some very good athletes on that team that can put the ball in the basket. So that's going to be competitive. Phillips has been what Phillips has been the last couple of years with the team that they've had to always give, try to knock off the South teams. It was always a game you didn't want to be part of against Phillips. And again, looking at the records here, Assumption's out in an early control and winning by big numbers in the area with the teams they're playing. Stratford's a solid team, sitting at 4-2 overall and 3-1. Edgar, again, I think they have a new coach. Yeah, they have a new coach this year. So again, those stepping stones, those building blocks, but they're 5-2 overall, and they got one of the wins against the North teams. I think a lot of these teams are kind of, they're battling for some consistency because this is what makes this difficult. And not only do you wail on each other in your own conference, which would technically be the Merriwood South, but take the whole Merriwood overall, you're going to get a challenge from some of those northern teams. It's a lot more evenly played, which makes those conference records. And I think it makes it all more viable to count all those as conference games because it just makes it more interesting for us as spectators. But, war's going on again. Obviously, Assumption's the early favorite, and it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out if Auburndale, Edgar, Stratford can control that second one, and then I know Newman and Marathon are kind of fighting for the consistency that those coaches are looking for and expect out of their girls.
And real quickly, the Merriwood North standing to Athens 4-1 in the conference, 4-4 overall. Phillips 3-1 in the conference, 5-1 overall. Then Abbotsford and Prentice both 2-3, along with Rib Lake. 3-4 for Abbey, 3-5 for Prentice, 4-5 for Rib Lake, and Shawamigan still looking for that first win. They're 0-5 in the conference, 2-6 overall. But Athens and Phillips have been very good in recent years, so it's not a surprise when you do see them earning some of the W's. In fact, we just saw Phillips. It was Phillips that gave Assumption their best game of the season so far.
74-66.
So, yeah, really the only time that Assumption has been forced to play for 2 complete halves up to this point. And, again, doing a solid job, both Phillips and Athens on the girls' side. We have the Central Wisconsin North. Northern Lutheran, 0-1 in the conference, 3-4 overall. You got Gresham leading the way as they 10-2, 2-0 in the conference, 7-1 overall. You got Boulder at 1-0 in the conference, 4-3 overall. Then Marion 1-2, Northland 0-1, and White Lake 0-1. Northland also was participating in that Lutheran tournament over the weekend at Wisconsin Lutheran. They beat Illinois Lutheran 55-22, but had, like the boys, that Great Plains Lutheran of South Dakota must be a pretty darn good basketball program, both on the boys and the girls side. Saturday, Northland lost 66-22. But again, every time when I'm going through getting ready for the show and looking at, I pull up different pages of different teams, and just over 80 kids in the school. And the thing about it is we see some of these other schools that are not able to put up teams. And we see Northland every year. And they're always interesting. I mean, they always seem to have pretty good coaching. They seem to maximize the challenges that some of these smaller schools have. I think we can't overestimate.
Well, and how often are you talking to a coach and it's like, I'm fighting to get girls out, or girls or boys, and the schools that don't have a JV team, they only have a varsity team, or they have to talk to kids in the hallway and beg them to come out. And Northland already starts like that with the low enrollment that they have, with just having 80 kids. In fact, I noticed that same thing when I clicked on them yesterday. I'm like, how many kids are in that school? And it says right across that line of data information that it's 80 kids. And I think it's impressive when you can put a team on there. And they also have different circumstances because those kids don't all live in the Wausau area. Yeah. They travel. So sometimes...
Yeah, when we had our guest early in the season, man, that's a long trek.
Yeah, and so sometimes that changes your practice. You can't be practicing at 5, 6 o'clock at night like other schools can, where there's got to drive across town, and your practice might start at a regular time, and because they have to have practice. So you're sharing the gym possibly with the boys and girls, and that it makes a different dynamic. So when they're competitive in the conference that they're in, I think it's a good thing because they're finding a way, like you said, to put a successful product out on the floor as best they can.
CWC East, it looks like Bonduel is the team to beat. They're 3-0, but also Wyoega 3-0. Bonduel 5-2, Wyoega 6-3. Manawa and Whitburn 2-1 in the conference. Manawa 3-3, Whitburn 7-1. Amherst and Menominee Indian 1-2. Iola Scandinavia and Shiocton 0-3 in the conference. And the big game last week was Friday. Bonduel went to Wittenberg, and they took charge. They took off real quickly. They led 39-17 at halftime and then cruised to a 51-36 win. And that handed Whitburn their first loss of the season. And Melena Granquist had 14 for the Chargers, only 6 points, the highest score for anybody else when it came to Whitburn players. But that's, again, I think that was an early warning shot from Bonduel, who then went to Amherst last night and won 45-30. Whitburn took on a struggling 0-8 Iola team and won 73-24. But we talked about Wittenberg being perhaps a team to keep an eye on, but that Bonduel team really, to go on the road in that little gym at Wittenberg and take a 22-point lead in the first half, I thought was very impressive.
It is, especially if you look at the stats of what they got a couple 20-point scores on that team to try to keep two of them in check, or even one of them in check, is quite a feat. And Bonduel, it makes a statement. It's kind of again the cool thing about high school sports. You rise to the occasion. You take the conference when you're not supposed to. You beat down the team that has these higher expectations. I mean, that's the only blemish on Wittenberg's record is that loss there at 7-1. So I think that next game is going to be something that's a big market. Especially if Bonduel doesn't take one in the conference and Wittenberg doesn't either. That's going to be a big game the second time around.
Absolutely. So that's what's been going on the girls' side in high school basketball. Again, like on the boys, we'll look ahead at some of the matchups this weekend and into early next week later on in the program. But again, coming up a little bit later on, we'll have our guest. Normally we have our coach guest in the first hour, but because, again, of scheduling, and we're more than happy to work on the scheduling. The Central Wisconsin Storm head coach, Jana Wimmer, will be joining us at approximately 7:20. And then at 7 o'clock, coming up in about 20 minutes or so, we'll be joined by the 4 candidates for the Win Brockmeyer Award for the top senior football player in the Wausau area. And we'll be joined by DC Everest Pearson McDonald, Newman Catholic's Matthew Meyer, Wausau East Pacey Weber, and Wausau West Tegan Isham Hurd. That's all coming up at 7 o'clock. But coming up next, we are in the midst of hockey. We're going to talk, I was over doing some hockey last night in Eau Claire. I'm sure Jeff was tuned in.
And listened, yeah. Listened and learned.
Very good. So we will talk a little bit of hockey coming up next. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
What's your idea of fall fun? Maybe it's hitting the trails on a new ATV. Then it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Or if you're thinking of a UTV for hauling wood or hunting, or maybe just because it would make the tasks around your property so much easier, it's time to call CCU. ATVs, UTVs, utility tractors, and their attachments for care of your property. Whether you need it for fun or to get the job done, Clover Belt Credit Union is here to help with the great rate financing you want. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Thinking about a motorhome or maybe a snowplow for your ATV or utility tractor? Call CCU for great rate financing. And if you're thinking motorcycle, Clover Belt Credit Union has the financing you need for the bike you want. Call or apply online at ccuwausau.com. Check it out. For vehicle loans, for mortgages, for financing fall fun, call Clover Belt Credit Union. That's CCU. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes. That'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Wisconsin, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Take your career to the next level with Graphic Packaging International. Work with a team to make Hot Pocket sleeves and the food trays you find at our local fair. Join the GPI team and experience the benefits of one of the highest paying manufacturers in the area, starting at almost $22.55 per hour. Enjoy job security, a clean facility, and an excellent benefits package, including a week of vacation after 4 months and 2 weeks after a year. Apply today at graphicpkg.com and elevate your career with Graphic Packaging.
Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. And again, coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we'll be joined by our student-athlete guest. We're going to do something big. We've never had 6 people in the studio.
There's a lot of mics in here. It's going to be interesting.
At the old place, it was impossible to do that. But here,
it'll be cool.
We're gonna squeeze and we're gonna do it. I brought in the extra equipment, and we're gonna have the 4 nominees for the Win Brockmeyer Award joining us. Again, Pearson McDonald from Everest, Matthew Meyer from Newman, Pacey Weber from East, and Tegan Isham Her from Wausau West, all coming up at 7 o'clock. And then at 7:20, again, our coach guest, Jana Wimmer, the head hockey coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm. So still plenty to come here on this Wednesday evening. And speaking of hockey, it was a great weekend because, again, one of my favorite events of the year is always the Marathon Cup tournament. And last week, it was the Marathon Cup. It was different this time around because of all the construction going on at DC Everest. They played the semifinals at the Marathon Park Ice Arena, and then the consolation and championship rounds were played in Mosinee at the Mosinee Rec Center. And in the semifinals last Thursday, it was in the first game, Mosinee shutting down East Merrill United 5-0. And then in the nightcap, Cooper DePoit had a hat trick as Wausau West shut out DC Everest by a score of 6-0. So it was going to be Everest and East Merrill United in the consolation round on Thursday, and Wausau West and Mosinee in the championship round. And those the 2 games on Thursday, 5-0 and 6-0, it was a situation where, it was not competitive, I would say. The games were never in doubt. Both games on Saturday were very tight, very entertaining over in Mosinee. And in the consolation round, East Merrill United beat DC Everest 3-2. Thomas Passano had 2 goals for the Evergreens. Zach Poggle scored twice for East Merrill United. And then Riker Remington, a freshman, scored the game-winning goal for East. And the thing about that game that was cool for East Merrill United is that they had not won a Wisconsin Valley Conference game since December the 19th of 2017. So nearly 6 years to the day since EMU had won a Wisconsin Valley Conference game, and they won it at Mosinee against Everest on Saturday night. And again, it's not easy when you're trying to build, especially when you have teams. And earlier last week, the Blue Jacks lost in Stevens Point 18-0. And that was just a few days earlier. And then they were able to still come back and get that win. I thought that was exceptionally impressive to get knocked down like they did Tuesday and then be able to, on Saturday, earn that first conference win in such a long time.
Well, it shows the resiliency of these high school athletes to pop back and set that aside and learn what they can out of that loss, and or just put it behind it sometimes when it's a score that you're not going to overcome because it was just a better team. And pop back and build something so they can find some consistency and something to build off into their next games.
And then the championship round, and it was, again, a very competitive game. And in the end, Chase Crass scored the game-winning goal in the third period as Wausau West edged Mosinee 2-1. And again, it's almost mathematically impossible what they've been doing to win that tournament 17 years in a row. It's not like you just show up and win that tournament. You got to win twice. During the course of the last 17 years, Mosinee has had state tournament teams. DC Everest has had a state tournament team, so they've had some good hockey teams. And yet, somehow, 34 games, 34 wins, 17 Marathon Cup championships for West. Again, I just think mathematically it's almost impossible to do that.
Yeah, you should.
Again, they played on the road. They were on the road against Mosinee on Saturday. They play on the road against DC Everest in previous years. Again, to do that, it's just, I shake my head because it's really something that should not happen. You should not be able to do that 17 years in a row, but it shows that whatever it is, Wausau West has that magic touch when it comes to the Marathon Cup.
Yeah, mathematically, those numbers just don't work. Somebody always upsets somebody at some point, or you have some inconsistencies in plays that can make the better team not win that game. So I think, again, a big deal for West to defend that title, and a number that we look forward to see if it keeps going, which it should with the good, solid, successful hockey program that they have over there.
Last night, some games on the schedule. West and East Merrill United. So East Merrill could not celebrate too long because the way the Marathon Cup works is that the team you don't play in the tournament, the following Tuesday you play. So last night it was Wausau West and EMU, and also Mosinee against DC Everest. And Wausau West defeated East Merrill United by a score of 8-1. Caden Boleen had 4 goals. He was out for the first couple of games, but since he's arrived on the scene, he's been lighting the lamp very consistently for Wausau West. So 4 goals for Boleen, and the Warriors improved to 4-0 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, 6-3 overall. Mosinee at Greenheck defeated DC Everest 3-1. It was a tight game, 2-1 after Thomas Passano scored late in the third period. Then Mosinee added an empty netter. Also last night, good win for Wisconsin Rapids. I was over in Eau Claire doing the Storm game. They played at 5 o'clock. And then right after that, Rapids was there to play Eau Claire North, which is a good hockey program. And Rapids earned a 4-3 win. They're now 4-1 overall. They're 1-1 in the conference. And Marshfield earned a non-conference win, 4-1, defeating Wapaka. So when excuse me. And when you also look at Stevens Point had a big win last Thursday. Spash is right now ranked number 3 in the state in the Wisconsin Prep Hockey rankings, which again is for entertainment purposes only. Because I say that truly because they beat Bayport Saturday. Bayport 2-1, and Stevens Point Thriller, they were down 1-0 with under 2 minutes to go. And with 1:10 to go in the third period, Grant Molsky scored a power play goal. And with 34 seconds left in the third period, Grant Molsky scored a power play goal. So it turned a 1-0 loss into a 2-1 win. But the thing that's I chuckle at, because this game occurred last Thursday night, the polls came out after the weekend. And Bayport's number 2 and Stevens Point's number 3. Stevens Point won at Bayport.
Yep.
They won. They haven't lost a game this year. They won at Bayport, and yet Bayport is ranked higher than they are. Again, that's why I say it. I said it during the football season. I say it all the time.
It's an opinion.
These are for entertainment purposes only. It's like you look at it, people get excited. Oh, wow, we're number 1. Or, oh, wow, why aren't we number 1? It's about clicks.
Right.
And again, I mean, I've not voted on any of this stuff because I wouldn't feel qualified to vote on this stuff. I mean, I think really it's like, I think people that vote on it probably don't have a sense if they're located in maybe the Madison area
Yep.
What are you going to know about northern Wisconsin or central Wisconsin? So again, I kind of like it when I see something like that happen because it proves I'm right.
Right. Well, yeah, it's truly an opinion, and there's probably a little, I don't know, it's got to be a little guesswork if you're trying to rank all these teams, and it's just like, when schedules and conferences and teams of varying abilities come out, you can get a mixture of stuff, but logically with what you're saying, Spash should be ranked ahead with what they were just able to do. So, I guess, good for them. Those players will be excited about that, but you can also take it on the head where you're like, we didn't get what we deserve either against those rankings.
Absolutely. Looking ahead, tomorrow night, because I never get a night off. I got to go down to Stevens Point, but this is one of my favorite games of the year when West plays Spash in hockey. I mean, it's always such a massive, massive game. Both teams playing well. It's a huge one in the WVC tomorrow night. Hockey, Wausau West at Stevens Point. We'll have coverage live right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 o'clock. Also on the schedule tomorrow night, Wisconsin Rapids at East Merrill United and DC Everest at Marshfield. Saturday, interesting game is Wisconsin Rapids plays at Stevens Point. Rapids off to a good start, 4-1. So a couple of big games for Stevens Point. They're both at the Willett against Weston Rapids. And then next Tuesday, there's Wausau West home against Chippewa Falls. It's a game that, again, we'll have here on Bull Falls Radio. And Chippewa Falls is ranked number 5 in the state. So another really good non-conference matchup for the West Warriors. Also in the conference next week, Marshfield is at Wisconsin Rapids. Stevens Point is at DC Everest as well. And EMU, East Merrill United, has a non-conference game against Antigo. And real quickly, before we take a break, I want to go over the standings. Wausau West 4-0 in the conference. Stevens Point's only played 2 conference games. They're 2-0. West 6-3 overall. Stevens Point 3-0-1. Then you have Rapids at 1-1 in the conference, 4-1 overall. EMU 1-2 in the conference, 1-6 overall. Marshfield 0-2. 3-5 overall. DC Everest still looking for that first win in conference. 0-3, and they're 2-7 overall. And again, the Evergreens will have that opportunity against Marshfield tomorrow night. One of those teams will earn their first conference win of the season. And as I said as well, as we're going to talk later in the show with Jana Wimmer of the Central Wisconsin Storm, 7-0. Last weekend, on Friday and Saturday, earned a couple of great wins, including a 2-1 win over Hayward, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs a year ago. The second time this season, the Storm have defeated Hayward. This was in the championship round of the University School of Milwaukee tournament. And then last night, went to Eau Claire. And again, it was a nip and tuck affair, but in the end, Tristan Wickland, who was a guest of ours a few weeks back, lit the lamp in the third period to give the Storm a 1-0 win and improved to 7-0 on the season. And the Central Wisconsin Storm have a good test coming up this weekend. Friday they go to Hudson, who is ranked number 3 in the state, and then on Saturday they take on the St. Croix Valley Fusion. I think Hudson's 4 and St. Croix Valley's 3. The Storm are number 2. So again, a couple of really good tests for them on the road. That's one thing about the co-op. They talk about the co-op being a great advantage, but the problem is you don't have the teams around to play. So when you do play on the road, you have to go a long way in order to do it.
and as it's scheduled, you can get those games. To have again, just an opinion, just an evaluation of somebody, but they have 2, 3, and 4 of those ranked teams playing in one location. You know what I mean? They're obviously good.
They are good.
So, but they have them all in the same venue. going against each other those 2 nights. That's some big testing moments, I think.
Absolutely,
that makes your team successful.
Well, that's going to take now you can take a deep breath. Your hockey is done.
Thank you.
And now we're going to take a quick timeout and then come back with hour number 2 of the show again in about 20 minutes or so. We'll be joined by Jana Wimmer, the head coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm. And coming up next, we will talk to the 4 nominees for the Win Brockmeyer Award coming up next. So, again, we'll come back in 3 minutes and then have our guests coming up here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Parents of class of 2024 seniors, graduation is a few months away. Do you know where your photos are? Melissa Sullivan of Picks and Pieces Photo and Digital Organizing can help. Mel is a professionally trained photo manager who can convert printed photos and outdated media to digital formats, consolidate and organize your digital photo collection, and create custom photo books, gifts, and slideshows. Preserve, organize, and share your priceless family memories today. Call Mel at 715-446-0762 or visit picksandpieces.com today to learn more. Again, that's PIX, the letter N, pieces.com.
If you're looking for your next ride, check out Mankey GMC in Schofield. Formerly Fred Miller Automotive, Mankey GMC serves Schofield, Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point with a huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Explore a range of top-notch SUVs like Acadia, Terrain, and Yukon, or choose from the rugged Sierra truck lineup, or even a certified pre-owned vehicle. No matter your dream vehicle awaits at Mankey GMC, 448 Grand Avenue in Schofield, and online at MankeyAuto.com. Mankey GMC in Schofield, where your journey begins.
So, how are the kids?
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though.
What's going on?
He's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team. And ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Wisconsin high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
What's your idea of fall fun? Maybe it's hitting the trails on a new ATV. Then it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Or if you're thinking of a UTV for hauling wood or hunting, or maybe just because it would make the tasks around your property so much easier, it's time to call CCU. ATVs, UTVs, utility tractors, and their attachments for care of your property. Whether you need it for fun or to get the job done, Clover Belt Credit Union is here to help with the great financing you want. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Thinking about a motorhome or maybe a snowplow for your ATV or utility tractor? Call CCU for great financing. And if you're thinking motorcycle, Clover Belt Credit Union has the financing you need for the bike you want. Call or apply online at ccuwausau.com. Check it out. For vehicle loans, for mortgages, for financing fall fun, call Clover Belt Credit Union. That's CCU. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa. WXCO and on the Civic Media app with Jeff Gress. I'm Chad Holmes. And Jeff, it feels like we're doing a talk show really now, doesn't it?
Well, you add more people and you feel more important. I mean, that's a big deal. So just still the shortest one in the room, but go ahead.
It's really great to have the four nominees for the Win Brockmeyer Award. If you're not familiar with the Win Brockmeyer Award, it is given each year to the top senior football player in the greater Wausau area, from Wausau West, Wausau East, Newman Catholic, and DC Everest. And we're very happy to have the four nominees who are nominated by their head coaches joining us here tonight. We're joined by Pearson McDonald, the nominee for the DC Everest Evergreens, all-conference wide receiver. Tegan Isham-Her, who is from the Wausau West Warriors, center, also all-conference. We got Pacey Weber, who we had earlier this season, joining us from the Wausau East Lumberjacks, quarterback, and Matthew Meyer from the Newman Catholic Cardinals. And gentlemen, first of all, I'm going to have you make sure you're all pretty close to the microphone when you talk. But I want to say thank you all for coming and hello. First of all, I'm going to ask you basically
The Win Brockmeyer.
The Win Brockmeyer Award.
You may not know. I'm not going to quiz you on the history of Win Brockmeyer. He was a legendary coach here in Wausau. What does it mean? Had you been aware of it as you started your senior seasons? Is it something that was significant within your football programs? I guess we're going to go around. We'll start with Matthew off to the far left, and we'll go kind of around the horn here. Matthew, how familiar are you with the Win Brockmeyer? What does it mean?
It really means a lot. I mean, last year we had Connor Crock. He won it. So, I mean, I was, familiar with it a bit, and it really just means a lot to be nominated for it. I mean, to be thought of that you have those traits of it. I mean, it really makes you feel good about yourself. And really, I might be doing something right here, I guess. So.
Casey Weber, what about you? Familiar with the Brockmeyer? What's it mean?
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the guys that have been nominated for and won it, and they're all outstanding individuals on and off the field, and it's really an honor to be a part of the Brockmeyer Award.
Pearson, how about you?
So I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about it. Halfway through the season, and my Coach Schiller came up to me and introduced the idea to me and a few other players. So I did some deep research into the award, learned a lot about Win himself as a coach, and it's an honor to be here.
And Tegan, I like the fact that we have all these guys that put up the big numbers, and we got the guy that's actually responsible for the big numbers, right in the interior of the line. What about you? Were you familiar with the Brockmeyer, and what does it mean to you to be the Wausau West nominee?
I'm really honored because we have a lot of good senior players on our team, and I'm a little familiar with it, but not really. I just know a couple of our guys who've been nominated, so I'm pretty proud of being nominated.
Fantastic. And I think as Pacey had said, that part of the process, and I'm fortunate enough to be one of the voters on this, along with the athletic directors from each of the four schools and media representatives as well. The off-the-field aspect. And I want to ask each of you as well about the off-the-field aspect, because obviously you got a lot on your plate. You got your football and your athletics. You got your academics and your school. How important is it? How much is it individual choices in terms of how you spend your time outside of the actual football aspect? Because it is a part of it, and it was great to look at each of your, I would call them resumes, concerning the off-the-field aspect. How do you guys look at the off-the-field aspects, not just because of this award, but generally in terms of trying to work within the community? And this time, let's start with Tegan, and we'll go the other way this time around. Absolutely. Basically, part of the voting is not just the football aspect, but actually doing outside of football. Whether it's academic work in the classroom, but also doing some things outside within the community and leadership within your locker room and as a senior for your team. When you look at that aspect of it, because like I was saying, you have a lot that's on your plate. You have a lot of responsibility, hours on the practice field and with football. How do you, for lack of a better way, balance it all out to make sure that you have a well-balanced experience, and not just the football aspect?
I mean, it's pretty easy to balance because everything kind of revolves around it. So I don't know, just spread it out. And
is Pearson in terms of outside activities? Are you involved in any outside activities? Whether it's volunteer work or anything like that.
Yeah. So in the during the season, we volunteer. Like some of the guys from the football team volunteer for flag football. Just to develop the kids that are younger than us, and they see how they look up to us as role models. The coaches emphasize that all the time, and make sure we're not just messing around. And we actually talk to the kids and are personal with them, so they have a good future.
About Pacey. In addition to the outside activities, another aspect is as a senior, part of this award is leadership within the team. How did you feel in terms of the importance of being a leader on your team?
I really felt like the aspect of being a leader. It's really important because you want to be that person that not only your team can look up to, but the community. Like when you come off the field, people are coming up to you and telling you good game. It kind of shows that you're a leader on and off the field because people are willing to go up to you like hey, that guy's a leader. He goes out there and leads our team. So.
And Matthew, in terms of trying to balance everything, in terms of knowing that there's more than just football. Are you involved in anything that would be considered either volunteer activities or something like that?
Yeah, I'm a part of the Key Club over at Newman, and I'm also our football team. We also do a lot of out of school volunteer work also, and. Really try to put that first too, because besides all the sports aspect about it and playing the game, it's really about like who you are as a person. And, it's cool to play football, but once you're off the field, that's really what's important, to be a good person in your community and to others.
I've been some of the things I've been part of when we had our AD is also our football coach, so they stuck somebody next in line to go, and I'd have to go talk about the players and stuff. I was always impressed by the information you filled out. It was easy to see all the work you put into it, the leadership skills you had, the stuff outside of it. So obviously everybody's a good person, and then there's different things that set us aside. I guess I'm looking at this. I think it's a culmination of your senior years and what you've done, the respect you've earned from your coaches and your fellow players, and the job you did in your conference and all your games. And this is kind of a culmination of all that hard work and a great honor just to be nominated. And obviously one of the four of you out here are going to walk out winning that, which is another big deal. And I think I guess I want to hear from you. The football season's done. That part of you has moved on. High school football senior, it's gone. It's done. What's been the biggest deal for you to get to be on a high school football team, and part of a program? What's something that was a really big deal for you? Maybe something you'll miss. Pierce was going to go first.
So a big part of being a part of the football team is just the family aspect of it. Every time you step on the field, those guys are. You're one big family with all of them, and it just means a lot to just have that relationship with a lot of guys, like peers, I guess.
Pacey?
I guess I would say the team aspect too. Just because as seniors, you're not going to play with those guys probably, ever again. So it's just that special aspect of just being with your friends and walking through the hallways with your jersey on Fridays, and just the team aspect and being with your dudes.
Matthew.
It really means a lot. My fellow athletes there, they're like brothers to me, and the coaches are almost like dads. It's like losing family members. I know I'll never get to play with them again, most likely. It's hard, but.
Tegan?
I also miss playing with they're like my brothers, so it's hard because they said I will never play with them again, most likely.
And the thing about football is so often, as we get old, you can still play pickup basketball. It is somewhat similar. Football is different. You don't see very many people pads on. Play pickup football. There's something about when you had high school. And I'm sure that some of you guys have the opportunity to go to the next level, but. It is the end of an era for each of your lives. I want to ask, when did you start playing football? What was it early on about football that really got you into hey, this is something I want to spend my time on. This is something I want to work at to try to reach a high level that each of you have been able to. This time we'll start with Pacey.
I would say I probably started playing football at around 6, and I guess I just really loved slinging the rock around, and that's really what got me into it, just playing quarterback and the whole aspect of leading a team, and just growing up watching football every weekend, which is something that really inspired me to just keep getting outside and doing drills, because hey, I could really get to the next level. So that's always been my goal since I was really young.
Matthew?
I think it started. Well, I started about 7th grade when I started playing. When I was younger, I always used to throw the ball in the backyard with my brother. But going later on, I was actually contemplating quitting my freshman year, and then one of the seniors actually came up to me and like had a one-on-one talk to me, and really was like, well, you're part of the family here, and we'd really like you to stay. And like once you're a senior, I mean, this is your job here. And I think that really like inspired me to, I want to be like you when I'm older, kind of as like an older brother, and I really want to be there for everyone else on my team. And it really means a lot.
Tegan, real quick, when did you start playing football?
And have you always been a lineman?
Were you ever a guy that had the ball when you were growing up? Because it's always had the glory a little bit. When did you start playing football first?
I started playing in 7th grade, and I've never carried the ball. Well, I have, but like a fumble.
Hey, you still count.
What is it about football
that has really made you especially as a lineman? I mean, the weight room time, the additional hard work. What is it about the whole football experience that has kept you going?
It's hard, and it like feels good when you're done with it, and like just knowing that you put the work in, like harder than everyone else, and just I don't know, when you're sweating a lot, it just feels good.
I guess it's the feeling of a hard day. You just feel really good about it. Jeff,
I think high school sports teach us so much about ourselves and can redefine things within our lives. And I guess, I don't know, you each got one thing to share that's been one of your maybe most rewarding moments out on the field, and then one of, I guess it could be your biggest challenges, because I think sports prepares us for life, because you're going to hit those highs and lows as you do in sports.
Matthew, we'll start with you this time.
One of my biggest, I think, one of my favorite moments, at least in football, is when I got a kid in my class. I got him to play football this year. This is his first year as a senior. He's never played before. And one of the most rewarding moments was when we had a scrimmage at the beginning of the year, when I saw him score a touchdown, and I saw how excited he got after that. It really made me feel like it made me feel proud for him, and I felt good for him. And I think one of my hardest moments was when I broke my arm the first game. That was a lot to overcome, a lot of emotions rushing, and wondering if I'll ever suit up again.
Tegan?
I'd say one of the most challenging moments I've had was transitioning to play center, because I played right tackle, and going into my first year in varsity, I made big snaps and everything, so it kind of made me get in my head a lot. And then one of the most rewarding is like becoming the captain for the team, because I don't know, I'm a silent leader, so it's just nice to get recognized in a way.
Pearson?
I'm going to go with the most rewarding and challenging thing at the same time was beating Wausau West. Sorry, just because us as a team had never beaten before, and it just meant a whole lot more because I have two cousins on that team, Marcus and Jaden, Drews and McDonald, and it just made the win feel a whole lot better because I could go to my cousins after the game and kind of just laugh. I don't know, they've done it my whole life. So,
Pacey.
I would say probably my most challenging thing. It's probably when I was a freshman. I had some people who thought I was a tight end over a quarterback, and I guess that really triggered something inside me to work extra hard to prove people hey, I can play quarterback. And I am a good quarterback. But I would say my most rewarding thing is getting my first varsity started quarterback as a sophomore. Just playing with those seniors was really nice, and it was definitely a special moment.
Again, we're joined by the candidates for the Win Brockmeyer Award: Pearson McDonald, Pacey Weber, Matthew Meyer, Tegan Isham. They will be at an award ceremony on Friday morning, where the Win Brockmeyer Award will be given. And for folks out there, Win Brockmeyer, he was coach at Wausau High School for the merger from 1937 until 1970. Incredible record. Look it up. Amazing record. And his legacy continues with this award every year. It's a very experience for everybody involved. And glad to have all four of these young men joining us here today. What's the I talked about the challenges, and I think kind of touched on a favorite moment. But when you look at the entirety, whether it's on the field, off the field, what was maybe the moment this year that you'll look back and say, boy, that's at least right now. You may change your mind in the future. Maybe the favorite moment of your senior year of high school football. Again, we talked about being a special year last year of high school. Was there a moment this season, whether it could be on the field, could be in the locker room, it could be in the weight room, wherever, maybe the special moment that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your lives. I guess we'll start with Pearson. Start with Pearson.
So a special moment that not really I had, but seeing Blake Bankston go through so much adversity this season. Like when his brother got hurt, Caden got hurt against Marshfield week 3. He was very upset because they're brothers. They've been playing together their whole lives, and just to see him do so well that game and the following week, that was probably my favorite moment. Just to see him do so well, and he did it for his brother. Honestly, it's cool.
Pacey.
I would say my favorite senior memory was week 1 when we played Lakeland, and we were down 7-0, and just for me being able to rally our team and score 23 unanswered points and win our first varsity game in like 1,400 days, that was something pretty special for us.
Matthew.
Like one of my most special senior moments was when I came back from break mom and scored my first field goal. I know I couldn't really do a whole lot on the team, but I could at least kick, and it was really special to see the ball fly through the post and be like, oh, I'm part of the team again. I actually seemed to really help contribute to a game, and it really felt good.
Tegan.
Probably winning the log game.
The last one is exactly right. Jeff.
Yeah. You guys about to take, I'm sure you're studying really hard. You're going to finish out your academics just at the top of your game, and there's no senioritis going on whatsoever. But, looking forward, what's, to share with our listeners, if you plan to go on to higher education or you're doing something else, maybe if you have an interest of a particular occupation that you want to do or a major you're going to hit, and what your plans are after high school. Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry, I'm pointing. Go ahead, Matthew.
I'm planning to attend, hopefully Stout, and I'm going to go into construction management.
Tegan?
I'm planning on playing football at the next level, and I'm planning on going for physical therapy.
You're going to let you carry the ball though in college? Pearson.
So I'm undecided where I'm going right now. I've talked to a few coaches, but major in mind is aviation management. It's hard to find a school that has that, and or business management.
And Pacey.
I'm looking to study business management and definitely play football at the next level, but still undecided.
How about for all you guys? I know a couple of you. I can just tell by the sweatshirt you have on, or if I know you, that you play other sports. Share again with our listeners some of the other sports you might participate in. It's up to you. It could be a dangerous game if you list your favorite, but there's no judgment in this room, so you can do that. And maybe what it means, what it means to be part of those other teams, or why the importance of playing another sport if you do that. So, and if you don't, you can just focus on one sport.
I do track. I throw because I'm bigger.
Does one lead into the other any better? Or do they both help with each other?
They do, but I'm only good at one.
Okay. Go ahead. Peace.
Oh, you're now.
I'm gonna mix this up a little bit. Go ahead.
I do track, but it will never come close to football as number one. So football will always be number one.
So I play baseball. I'm a center fielder, and I give a lot of credit being able to track balls, baseball or football, just doing that year-round, being able to catch the ball.
Matthew.
I also do track, and I recently joined basketball this year. It was the only way I could get one of my friends to join football, so I decided to maybe take one for the team and join basketball.
Are you happy you've done it?
I am because he had a really good year, and he was a big part of our team. But I'm struggling right now. I'm not very good at basketball.
Something that we always ask our student athletes. You've already been through the ringer on this one. We're still going to have discuss it because maybe you learned something the last few weeks. But something we always tend to ask, especially our seniors, is as a leader, somebody who's gone through the process, who's been through it. You've seen a lot of different experiences. for those younger members of your program, freshman or sophomore, that just starting their process at the high school level, what piece of advice would you give that you've learned, maybe the easy way, maybe the hard way over the last few years, that you can give piece of advice for the younger members starting their journey at the high school level? Tegan, we'll start with you this time.
I'd say stay humble and work hard every day. Don't take any rest days because, I mean, you want to play, so just keep working.
Pearson will go to you.
Yeah, Tegan, just stick to the grind. Don't let anyone outwork you, pretty much. The only other thing I have to add to that.
I know, Casey, we asked you that before, but anything you would add to it?
Grind don't stop. Always work at your crafts. Stick to the weight room. Keep good grades, and you'll have your future set for you.
Matthew.
Enjoy it while it lasts, because when it's gone, it's gone for good. Don't take anything for granted. Take every day like it's your last.
Jeff, anything else you want to add?
Last thing. I know sometimes it's difficult to leave behind, a sport or like a life kind of style you've lived for so long, and you've done it so many times. Like you said, most of your one answer on the one that thing was repetitious was your teammates and hanging with your friends. Are you at the same time? Are you ready for the next step? Are you ready to take that challenge on and fight? Do you feel prepared for it? Because obviously you see in the resumes that Chad talked about on the Brockmeyer scholarship pages, it's all got great stuff there, but you still got to go out and execute. So ready for the next stage or not, or would you like to hang in high school? Don't potentially fail any of your classes, but how about you, T? Go ahead.
I'm ready for the next. I mean, obviously it's hard because high school's fun, and you have to mature more when you get to college. But I'm ready for it.
It's going to be a big next step. I think I'm ready, but it's going to be tough. I mean, I don't even know what taxes are really, and I have to start paying them now. And it's going to be tough, but I think I'm ready for it.
Obviously, it's a big change. It's a new chapter of your life, but I guess the best thing you can do is just to prepare yourself and keep working on your craft.
I'm really excited to kind of get out of high school. Not really just because it's high school, but I'm excited to see what life has in store.
Fantastic. Again, number one, congratulations. It's a great honor to be nominated by your coaches, by your athletic directors, by the football community for your schools. You're each winners, no matter who ultimately gets the award on Friday. But again, congratulations for a great job during the course of the season. Also, thank you all for coming in. Tegan Nisham, Pearson, McDonald, Casey Weber, and Matthew. Again, thank you all for coming by, and best of luck Friday. Best of luck for the rest of your senior year in high school. Especially best of luck as you take those next steps in your lives.
Thank you.
We're going to take a time out and come back with more. Continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
Hoops action continues, plus we spotlight this month's Wisconsin Dairy Female Athlete of the Month. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by NFHSNetwork.com. More high school sports news after this.
Do you ever wish you could be in two places at once? With homework, carpool, practice, and everything else, sometimes you just can't make it to every game. But the NFHS Network's streaming platform makes that a little easier. For just $11.99 a month, you can watch unlimited high school sports live and on demand, at home or on the go. You can watch online or on one of our mobile or connected TV apps. Visit NFHSNetwork.com and subscribe today to never miss another game.
The Verona girls basketball team is off to an impressive 8-0 start to the season, and the play of Taylor Stremlow is a big reason for the success. The senior Iowa commit posted 9 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and 8 steals in a 66-36 win over Madison Memorial last Thursday. On Saturday, playing in front of future college coach Lisa Bluter of the Iowa Hawkeyes, Stremlow had a triple-double with 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists as the Wildcats took down McFarland 67-55. Tuesday night is shaping up to be a big one in boys hoops, with 162 games on the schedule, including an exciting game in southeast Wisconsin. Division III top-ranked St. Thomas More will welcome in second-ranked Dominican for the first of two matchups between the Metro Classic Conference rivals. Dominican is averaging 104 points per game in a 6-0 start, while Thomas More is no slouch itself, putting up more than 87 points per contest. Each month, we feature a boys and girls athlete that not only excels on the court or field and in the classroom, but is also involved in our state's dairy industry. This month's Wisconsin Dairy Female Athlete of the Month is Ashley Brando from Lake Mills High School, who not only plays basketball for the L-Cats, but also works on her fifth-generation family farm and is involved in a number of dairy and agricultural organizations and endeavors. This is Benny, WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com. Mobile devices by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. I shouldn't be out of breath after a break, I tell you.
If anybody watched you do the cleanup, there was a lot of stuff. You cleared the table pretty quick.
I know it. But thanks to the guys for coming in. And again, congratulations to each of them for being nominees for the Win Brockmeyer Award. And very happy to welcome our coach guest. And fortunately, there's only one. We don't have, but Jana Wimmer, head coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm. And Jana, thanks for coming on by.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, let's start at the beginning because we don't see it too often where somebody has been a coach for a team that's very successful, went to the state tournament every year, and then went away because life called, right? What were the years that you were the coach for the Storm previously?
So it would have been oh gosh, I got to think back now. We moved in 2015, so it would have been like 2011, 2012, 2013 were the years I was head coach. I was an assistant coach with Denny Drake before that. And when he retired, was fortunate enough to get that head coaching job. And then my husband got a really great job opportunity in North Carolina. And something that was really hard to say no to. So we moved across the country, and we were there for about 3.5 years. We moved back in 2018. I was an assistant coach with Pete Susans for the first year we moved back, but while we were in North Carolina, had 2 little kids, and it just wasn't the right timing to get back into it as much as I would have liked to. So here we are.
How exciting is it to be back? I mean, I imagine that because you were a player, I think folks remember you as a sportscaster. You were around it for such a long time, and being close to it, I imagine it must be really fun to be part of, the winning and the losing. Fortunately, you haven't lost yet, but being part of that competitive atmosphere again must be really thrilling.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, I was fortunate to be part of the Storm program at a very young age with the Storm program, and it's something you miss. It's something you miss, that competitiveness, being around the girls every day, having those goals that you're striving for, the good and the bad that comes along with all of that. But it was definitely something I missed while we were gone. And as my kids got a little older and the opportunity arose again, after a lot of conversations with my husband, it was a good time to put my hat in the ring. And there's a lot of good candidates, and I was, very fortunate that I was chosen. I'm very thankful for it. And it's exciting. It's really exciting to be back. It's really exciting to be part of this Storm program, even though, I didn't grow up around here. I feel like I've been part of it for so long that it's a part of me now. So, just really excited about it.
Is there, from the first to the second term, I guess you'd say, or stint, or whatever you want to call it, is there a big difference? Is there a lot you learn about yourself in between? Is it tough to come back because you're like, did rules change? Does the game pass part of me by? I guess I'm always, because you see coaches,
Because he's thinking about getting back
No,
in himself at some point here.
No. I'm just saying, I see, it's different a little bit when you step away. And sometimes, like you said, there's good, bad, there's challenges, there's highs, lows. Do you see any differences, or has it been smooth sailing, or is it old hat, because you've done it before? What is your perception of it from the first time to the second time?
I think a little bit of everything. I think leading up to the year, I probably had a couple conversations with even Coach Brandt and some other people. I was like, man, I feel a little rusty coming into this, to be honest. But once you get going, it's the same old thing. It's still about the team, still about the girls, still about working hard. And if you continue the things that you believe in as a coach and that worked for you before, hopefully they keep working for you. On a personal level, I think it's a little different. I think I have a different perspective now that I have kids and I'm older and all of those good things. So I think that has a different perspective for me in probably the way I handle some situations, and the way, I don't want to say treat the girls, but just kind of in conversations, I have a different outlook probably than I did maybe 10 years ago. Hopefully it's a smarter, wiser one. But I think, it's once the season got going, it felt good. It felt good to be back. It felt natural to be back. And again, you kind of take those core values that you have as a coach that you hope you instill in your players. And as long as you keep working towards those, it's so far smooth sailing.
Again, we're talking to Jana Wimmer, the head coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm, here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 to 1230. You mentioned about, what you believe in. What is the foundation maybe that you're trying to set, especially because, yeah, you were the coach previously, but that had nothing to do with these girls. This is, again, you're a new coach. You come in working with these young ladies. What is the foundation that you're trying to build with this group?
I think that it all starts with hard work, and I hope most of the girls this year would tell you that, and I think that lots of the players that I've coached before would tell you that. There was a saying in our locker room that said, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And fortunately for the Storm program, we've had a lot of talent along the way, but I'm a firm believer in, you don't just get to show up and be better than people and you're going to win games. You need to show up every day at practice. You need to work hard. You need to support your teammates. You need to be a good teammate. You need to respect each other. So I think those are kind of the foundations that I've tried to lay, that I hope I've laid, that I think I've laid before. And, if you work hard and you believe in each other and you believe in common goals, then, you have some talent, which we do, and I'm thankful for that. Good things are going to happen.
And looking at the building of a program too, getting back into it, it's been solidified. Storm is known as a great hockey program in the state. Diving into the youth levels, the co-op I think are already a little challenging, and girls are coming from different things. They don't get to hang out in the school time all the time, so you got to bridge that gap and make that one complete unit as much as you can at practice. But for the youthfulness that with the kids that come in the youth programs, is there kids coming from a lot of different schools? Is it kind of the same idea as just a little bigger co-op all the way through? And I know from when I was a head coach, it was hard to get to a lot of that stuff because you got your own things to worry about, but you got to dive and get your hands into there to make it what you want when they come forth. How's building the youth program been for you? Is there a lot of work ahead? Is the girls bridge pretty easily through all that? Your take on it, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, it's been a bit of a challenge. I think that at the youth level, it's different than, this is the choice of the team that you're going to play for. This is your high school team. This is who you play for. At the youth levels, the girls can have an option to either play co-ed or they can choose to play girls hockey. I know that I've gotten a little bit more, I guess, involved in the youth program this year. My daughter is on the U10B team for the Warjacks. So I was part of the Storm committee and part of a lot of different things this year. So I've gotten a closer look at the youth levels than I did the last time I was coaching. And it's hard to navigate, to be honest. You want these girls to play girls, but it's hard because kids aren't only kids. Kids aren't only kids that play hockey, and each association kind of houses a different level of the Storm Youth Program. And, if you live in Mosinee and you have a son that plays hockey, and it's just easier for maybe your daughter to stay in Mosinee and not have to go to practice at Everest or, Wausau, depending on what year they are. This year, the Wausau Association was fortunate enough to have enough girls to host their own U10 programs, an A team and a B team. So, they invited any girls from other associations that wanted to play with them. But, it's good to see the sport growing, but it's definitely a challenge. And on the flip side, the U14 team, co-opted with Wisconsin Valley Union, who didn't have enough girls to play. So it's a bumpy road at the youth level. And, I wish I had all the answers, but I know that there's a lot of good people in place on the boards of all those youth associations that are believe in girls hockey and are looking out looking for what's best for these girls. And they're still getting opportunities to play, and I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So hopefully that continues. So it does present that challenge at the high school level. Some of these girls have never played before. And it is hard when you have the 4 different schools. And we even have a couple girls that are in WAVE, so they're, just doing the online school. And so they're not even seeing anyone, kind of on a daily basis. So that's a challenge as well. Kind of, thankfully, a lot of them play some spring hockey or fall hockey or summer hockey and all know each other on some level. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge to kind of bring together the different schools. And, that's when you look towards your captains, you look towards your upperclassmen who, as they've been there for, freshman, sophomore, they kind of buy in, they understand. And I think the other part is thankfully the Storm has, a rich tradition. And it's easier to, buy into those things, buy into the program when you kind of look back at everything that's been accomplished.
Let's talk a little bit about the girls. We had Tristan on a couple of weeks ago, and she's a very impressive young lady, a multi-sport athlete. We have a few of the multi-sport athletes here. I think that's always a good thing. I think that really does add to the whole high school sports environment. But let's start with Tristan because she had the game winner last night. It's always nice to see our guests come through and score game-winning goals like that. But let's talk about Tristan Wickland begin because I think she is your leading scorer right now. What does she bring to the table for your team?
Tristan brings a lot to the table. I mean, first of all, I would say game in, game out, she's definitely one of the hardest workers on the ice at all times. She's definitely stepped into a leadership role this year, and I feel like she's very focused. I think that she knows the quality of the team that we have this year and what the potential can be, and I think she will not, stop, will not pass go until we get to the end. So she's very focused. She's a very driven individual. She stepped up as a leader, and it goes without saying that she has a lot of hockey talent. I'm all for multi-sport athletes as well, and very proud and thankful that there's so many girls on the team that do that. But very talented hockey player, works very hard, and like I said, I think the biggest thing I would say about her is she shows up and she works hard every day. And she definitely has a goal for this year. And you can see it. You can see how she's instilling it in everybody else. And it's been a lot of fun to watch her. And I'm looking forward to watching her more.
Another good one that another three-sport athlete is your nominal starting goaltender. I'm a little frustrated. I've done 2 games. I haven't seen her yet. Claire Kalmus. She's I've always enjoyed watching her. I see her during softball season. I know she's played volleyball as well, but boy, as a goaltender, she has been just stellar. It wasn't really the easiest situation because the Storm had the 2 best goaltenders in the state, and I'm willing to say that by far. And she's been able to, as a freshman, as a sophomore, do so well. Now as a junior, obviously having a great goaltender is such a great way to build a foundation, isn't it?
I mean, that's every coach's dream, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Claire's just a phenomenal athlete. And as I've gotten to know her, she has a lot of leadership qualities. And she's she's so good. She sees the puck so well. She plays the puck well. She's a good teammate. She's a good leader. We have a girl that came this year, Ilsa, from Medford, who is also a very good goalie. So, as a coach,
he was very good last night.
Yes, as a coach, it's the good problems to have. Obviously, Claire's a junior. She's been very impressive. You'll see her a lot throughout the season. I can't believe you haven't seen her yet.
Well, the games I happen to be at. So
yeah, but yeah, Claire's super impressive, and everyone will definitely see a lot of Claire Kalmus this year.
Well, and how important is it to, you say every coach's dream, there can be every coach's nightmare too. It's sicknesses and injuries.
Yeah.
And when kids, you feel so confident as good as a coach, like everybody's good, and then all of a sudden you get the attendance report and like, what? They're at home and your parents are calling you like, they can't get them out of bed. They're throwing up right and left, so things like that. And it's like, how big a deal, especially when you play a challenging schedule. There's high expectations because of the successfulness of the program. How hard is it to navigate that? And what's your message to the team? You're 7-0 right now, and I'm assuming you've had to navigate that a little bit already with lineups and things like that. So
yeah, even last night, we've been rolling about 4D, and 2 of them were gone last night. We have one girl who's been kind of nursing some different injuries all year, another girl who was super sick, didn't go to school, just couldn't play. So yeah, we've already dealt with that a little bit, even as early as it is in the season, and it's hard. I think one thing I'm thankful for is that we do have a lot of depth on our team. We're rolling 3 lines all the time. We have 4 really solid D, 5 and 6 D that can get in there and play if needed. So I'm thankful that we haven't had too much of that problem this year yet, but anytime that you have that, you just have to be prepared for it, and you hope that you've coached these girls well enough in practice that when the time comes that they're ready to step up, they're ready to work hard and give the best that they can. And when you get in those situations, that's all you can ask. And so far we've gotten that from all the girls, and hopefully it'll continue that way.
And how important is, and I guess what type of say do you get as a coach? Because the success, 7-0 so far, the high expectations and standards that's been set for the Storm program throughout the time that I've listened to it or followed her Chad speak of it, is how important is that you get your hands into the scheduling? I mean, I know Chad listed some of, when we were doing the hockey segment, some of the upcoming games that you're going to see. I think that's a big deal. When you know your team has capabilities, you go challenge them. But your perspective on the schedule and how heavy you get to dive into that to make sure your team's prepared for what you want them to accomplish throughout that season.
Yeah, I think our schedule is great. I mean, obviously it was a long time ago when we kind of parted ways with the conference we were in, just knowing that the best way to
they didn't like you.
You said it. I wasn't going to say it.
You won too much. I got to say that. Yeah.
And the way to challenge these girls and the way to get better was to, kind of go the independent route. And, that was the whole point. The whole point was to schedule these teams to see the best throughout the year, and that was the way to make us better. So you look at our schedule, and it is really, really challenging. But I think that's great. I think that's awesome. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'd rather go into playoffs with a 500 record knowing that we, went toe-to-toe with some of the best and that we can play at that level than kind of have skated through and all of a sudden you're shell-shocked at the beginning. I think even we played Hayward last weekend. We beat them, 4-1 in our Gobbler Cup earlier in the year. We had a couple games in between where, we won 8-0, 9-1, things like that. And we got on the ice with Hayward, and even after a couple games, it was like, okay, whoa, we got to get back up to this level. So that's the whole point of it. I didn't get a lot of say in the schedule this year just because of, when I was brought on as the coach. But I know the coaches, in previous years when I coached before, that was always the plan was, face those tough teams, see what you're made of, go out and learn, go out and work hard, and make sure at the end of the year you're ready and you've earned it.
What do you I mean, you're 7-0. I mean, where do you get better right now? I know as a coach,
there's a lot of work.
I know there is, and especially again, it is the first year. I imagine that it's still the feeling out process to a certain extent as we're only in the nearing the middle part of December.
Yeah, it is absolutely. I obviously have never coached any of these girls before. Didn't even know many of these girls before a couple months ago. So definitely still kind of feeling out personalities and even just trying to get lines clicking. I actually changed lines again yesterday going into on Monday before going into Eau Claire just to kind of see what we can do, and hopefully by the middle of January we kind of have what we're going to stick with through the end of the year. But definitely trying different people, moved a couple people back to D, kind of just seeing what works. And I'm all for that for a while until we kind of get settled in. And I think that these girls, as much as they overthink it sometimes, they've adjusted well to it. And they all know what the goal is. And like I said, we've been fortunate enough to roll 3 lines all year. And we have some depth there. So no matter where, you kind of put those girls, we have those 3 lines that we're going to be able to play all year long, which is the goal. And as we get deeper in the season, hopefully as long as everyone can, stay at that high level and compete at that high level, that's something we'll continue to do. So we're just kind of, playing with things a little bit now. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement. We definitely need to finish a little bit better. I think last night's game was a big indicator of that. I think we outshot them 43-22 and ended with the lone goal. So, but again, I kind of threw new lines at him and things like that. So definitely always room to improve, things to work on, and we have a list.
Jana Wimmer, head coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm. Great you're back. Great record to build on. Obviously, the state tournament's at a new venue now. So if you get to there, make sure you go to the right place. But congrats on the good start. great to have you back, and look forward to seeing your team as you go down the line.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
We're going to take a break, come back, and look ahead. What's on the schedule in terms of big games this weekend and throughout the early part of next week? That's coming up next here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
Take your career to the next level with Graphic Packaging International. Work with a team to make Hot Pocket sleeves and the food trays you find at our local fair. Join the GPI team and experience the benefits of one of the highest paying manufacturers in the area, starting at almost $22.55 per hour. Enjoy job security, a clean facility, and an excellent benefits package, including a week of vacation after 4 months and 2 weeks after a year. Apply today at graphicpkg.com and elevate your career with Graphic Packaging.
Fall sports are here. Align your young athletes and yourself with health by scheduling an appointment with Dr. Sarah at Shine Chiropractic in Rim Mountain. Stay in the game with our comprehensive 3-point neurological exam, safe for the entire family. Don't let the daily grind keep you and your student athletes on the sidelines this year. Call Dr. Sarah at 715-298-5104. That's 715-298-5104 in Rim Mountain today.
Parents of class of 2024 seniors, graduation is a few months away. Do you know where your photos are? Melissa Sullivan of Picks and Pieces Photo and Digital Organizing can help. Mel is a professionally trained photo manager who can convert printed photos and outdated media to digital formats, consolidate and organize your digital photo collection, and create custom photo books, gifts, and slideshows. Preserve, organize, and share your priceless family memories today. Call Mel at 715-446-0762 or visit picksandpieces.com today to learn more. Again, that's PIX, the letter N, pieces.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. It just feels like I'm a little discombobulated right now.
There's a lot of movement. This show has gone by one of the faster ones.
Oh, I
Go
tell
ahead.
you. Well, let's jump in because we do have a lot to get through here in the last 10 minutes or so. Coming up, let's start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference boys. We'll start with boys basketball generally. And game that I'm going to have right here on Bull Falls Radio on Friday night. Wausau West hosting Stevens Point. I'm really looking forward to it because Stevens Point's been such a thorn in the side, not just the West, but for a lot of teams in the WVC. But Wausau West, I was very impressed. I saw them both Friday night and Saturday afternoon last week. They won 4 in a row all away from home. Stevens Point, again, highly regarded. I think a couple of new players they brought in this year, and they're off to a good start. As you said as well, they've played some teams from outside the area and were impressive in their victories. But this has the makings of West has a chance to make kind of a statement here this weekend. If they don't win, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that they don't make a statement. But at the same time, the way they played, I've been very impressed, and I really am looking forward to seeing how they do against Stevens Point.
Well, a lot of these games that we'll look at quick in the Valley, it's kind of you'll see some separation. I mean, there's teams that are looking to pop back up, but going for the West Smash one, I think. It's a good way for West to test themselves with one of the teams that's expected to be the conference champ and to see if they can continue that win streak that they've had. And for Spash, it's their first Valley game, so starting to get their feet wet. And I'm excited to have that next conversation with you because with them we see so much on paper and you get the numbers that way. So it's going to be interesting to see what you think of them watching them live.
And also I think some big games real quickly. Merrill at East on Friday. That's a really good one. East at Marshfield Tuesday. Spash at Everest Tuesday. The Valley, after we waited a while for them to really get into it, has some really good games.
Well, right. The Everest Marshfield one on Friday.
Everest Marshfield
on
too.
Friday right away. That can create some separation. Merrill East looking for that first conference win will be a big deal. So I think some of these games going forward, stuff's going to happening fast. We're going to see some separation with these teams wailing on each other in the conference.
Great Northern Conference. I think, again, Mosinee is looking really good. Mosinee has, again, Antigo and Pines. That should not be much of an issue. They go to Antigo Friday, Pines at home on Tuesday. I'm curious to see if Mosinee continues on this route, because again, we're not used to, 85 points was their low total last week, and then 90s twice. I tell you, this is a team that's really filling it up.
Yeah, that's the one you want to see, is if that scoring consistency continues. I think we talked about Everest doing that a couple of years ago, where they were putting up numbers close to 100 for a consecutive amount of games. So I think just seeing that happen, it'll be interesting. They should be 2-0 or get 2 more wins after this week in the conference, or after next week.
Mirawood Conference South on the boys' side. Again, we got conference matchups both on Friday and Tuesday. We're so used to those Friday crossovers. Now these are significant, because we always talk about when the Mirawood South gets together. These are huge games, and in terms of the games Friday and Tuesday of next week, what jumps out at you?
I think Marathon's going to hold control. They got Newman Catholic and Assumption. They should take those games. Edgar Stratford's always a middle of the pack game to see who creates some higher movements up in top of the conference. I want to see if Auburndale hold true to what they have. I think Assumption's always a scrappy team, but I think Auburndale can get them with the way they play consistently, and to see if Edgar putting it together a little bit after a successful football season, some new coaches. They're 2-0 right now early on, or 3-0 right now early on in the young season, and see if that continues to strive.
Yeah, they have the challenge. They go to Stratford Friday, they host Auburndale Tuesday. I imagine that you get one of those, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, especially under possibly new offensive and defensive strategies. It's going to be a big deal for them.
Let's talk about the girls' side. Let's go right to the girls. WVC, Weston Spash. I think, again, that has been a game that's had significance for conference championships for a number of years now. And I think it's going to still have significance for conference championships this season. But West at Stevens Point, again, I thought West, they played really took a step forward against Merrill last week. And Stevens Point, looks like they're starting to find their footing a little bit, both with new head coaches. So, again, an early season matchup that has significance. You want to get that first one if at all possible.
Yeah, that was the story I was going to throw, was that new head coach, just new coaches to kind of see how that plays out. I think it always makes it for interesting dynamics. Who's laying the foundation quicker than the other one, who's getting the consistency out of the players and making things happen. So, they've been wailing on each other for years, trying to get at the top of that conference between Spash and West, and there's been some very significant games that have come where it's come down to one game to see who's going to be the winner, and sometimes that can happen early on. I think Marshfield's still early on favorite, and they're going to go over and get the W at DC Everest, and Tuesday they should win at East too, I would think, just with the firepower that they have. But again, creeping around on the next tier of that pack is going to be, Spash, West, and you get that one game. Sometimes you can be a sleeper hanging around at the top of the conference too.
And I'm curious about that Merrill East game on the girls' side on Friday. It's going to be a pretty interesting doubleheader. They're playing at East on Friday, both the boys and the girls, because I think both those games are going to be interesting. I think those games are going to be very competitive. And for Wausau East, a chance to get a second early conference win. And obviously Coach DeBoer, with his third straight road game, wants to get that first conference win as well. But this is not the normal East team that most teams, we're going to go in there and we're going to beat Wausau East. This is a different looking Lumberjack squad.
Right, and it's going to have it has some implications to slide around that conference pretty quick, whether it moves you middle of the pack or keeps you down in the bottom. So I think that becomes a big deal with some pressure there to get that game. And I think the East Merrill, the way those two programs have played out a little bit lately, with Coach DeBoer trying to grow the Merrill program, and East getting a little better, it's become a rivalry in a sense. Somebody always wants to take that game big time.
Looking at the GNC, the games that are most interesting to the next week are actually not the conference games. So I think that Mosinee hosting Antigo, and then Lakeland playing Pines Friday. Pines in Lakeland. I think
Tomahawk. Lakeland's going to own.
Yeah,
they're going to be 5-0.
So I think the game's Monday, where Mosinee plays Edgar. Again, it's always been a pretty interesting game. Edgar's has some pretty good teams. Again, new feel at Edgar. And Assumption and Rhinelander. Rhinelander, again, I think Assumption is good for Assumption before we can get to the Merriwood South to play a team like Rhinelander. It's a better non-conference opponent than I think they've had for the most part this year. But Rhinelander off to a pretty good start in that conference. We'll see a little bit more of whether or not they're going to be able to be in that tier, maybe right below Lakeland along with Mosinee.
Yeah, I like those crossover games. I mean, Edgar's sitting at 5-2 right now. They've played more conference games than Mosinee, but obviously identical win-loss records, and I think that'll be a cool matchup to see, whose conference kind of gets bragging rights out of that. And for, Assumption, I think, looking down the stretch, you're going to want to keep trying to challenge yourself, and the possibilities for that may have to come out of conference playing some bigger schools to get those true tests to see where your girls stand, so you can keep striving for improvement throughout the season and not you want a flat line at any point.
Merriwood South right now is not as interesting as it normally is, to be honest with you, because you see Assumption right now, I think, head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of the experience and the talent that's back. It's going to be interesting to see who's able to take steps forward. Auburndale is always a solid program. They go to Edgar on Thursday. That's tomorrow night. That should be an interesting game, but some of these teams are still trying to find their footing right now, and it's been kind of an ugly start for a few of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, Marathon is with as well coached as they are. I know, they have some different age levels they're trying to work together between the youth and their experience. And I think that they got a tough test at Assumption on Thursday night or tomorrow night's game. For Newman, they've put some moments together in a lot of games, and I was talking with Coach Casey today a little bit about just they need to find that consistency. They want to get that, and I think Stratford will be a good test for that right away. And I think kind of in the middle of the pack of that conference is where all your question marks are. How are the Stratfords, the Edgars, the Auburndales going to peel out to try to hang by Assumption and be up there with Assumption being the front runner? And for Newman Catholic and Marathon, it's just about getting out of the bottom there.
We got a couple minutes here, and I wanted to, if there's any other games I missed, you can bring them up. But as a coach, right now we're heading to the middle of December. We're getting to that point, the run up to Christmas. And then, of course, there's holiday tournaments. And I think this week is kind of a significant week because we see a lot of conference games. And then all of a sudden, for a while, we don't see conference games around Christmas and New Year's. This week is a pretty significant week to kind of set a foundation for the conferences when we get back to it in January, isn't it?
Well, right. It gives you the element that if you're playing well and you're getting the W's of the games that you're winning within your conference, I think it solidifies what you're trying to do in your offensive and defensive processes and the connection and how the kids are clicking and how they're playing as a group. Obviously, a couple games in here that go well can continue that success for a while. And, if you struggle, you can have the same fears rolling in because then you have to wait a long time. So playing, I think, to get back into that after the Christmas break, so I think playing well right now is a big deal in terms of getting those conference W's, or at least being competitive if you know that the teams have quite a big margin in between them, between how good one is and how maybe struggling the other one is. So your goal is to play well this week. Based on what the coach thinks is the individual judgment, because you want to roll in that Christmas break, going to Christmas break strong for the conference season that comes back after that.
And of course, we'll probably talk next week because you always talk about the idea of do you play a lot early, then have a break around the holidays, or do you start a little slowly in terms of the number of games and then add the games around Christmas time because you have those opportunities as well. So again, it's that interesting time of year where I think coaches get an opportunity to kind of sense where they are, maybe what they need to work on, and it is a chance to reset during this time of the year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's evaluation processes all along the way. I think after you get that first game or two in, you see how things are working. You get past the Thanksgiving break and into that early week of some conference stuff. You see how things are working, and right before Christmas, again about this week, you evaluate what is that makes you successful or that you got to improve on.
Well, we'll talk next week.
Time goes fast. Sounds good.
Jeff Gress, Chad Holmes. It's been the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau. Streaming at bullfallsradio.com.